living environment fans and Bellringer fanatics and enthusiasts and aficionados across the globe. Today is Hockey Jersey Thursday, and we're on to number 6 in our countdown. Right, number 10 was body systems. Number 9 was brains. Number 8 was polymer. Number 7 was osmosis. And today's a squirmy one. I've got worms. That's right, today, number 6, worms. Worms. We spent a lot of time studying worms way back in the day, right? Way back in like late September, early October. We did a whole bunch of labs with worms. We dissected worms. We studied worm behavior. It was the wormiest worm thing we've ever wormed. Let's look at worms. All right. Hey now.
Mr. Kovacs class. It's Mr. Kovacs class.
You might learn on time.
It's Mr. Kovacs class.
He's interested too.
It's Mr. Kovacs class.
And he's super cool.
It's Mr. Kovacs class.
These guys, they're animals, right? Worms. A couple of good vocabulary. Hermaphroditic. Do you remember what that means? Good. And of course, heterotrophs. You know what that means, to be a heterotroph, right? Good. Yeah, earthworms are animals. They're in the kingdom of animals, right? That's their subdivision. So that means they are eukaryotic cells. They are consumers, and they move body parts to collect food. And that's usually what makes an animal an animal. Of all the animals, they're in a group that we call invertebrate, the ones with no bones. And of the invertebrate ones, they're in a group called annelids, the segmented ones. So the segmented animals that don't have any bones are the vermin, the worms. Worm annelids out there besides earthworms. There's bristle worms and cone worms and liver flukes and leeches and stuff like that. They're all closely related to each other. So what that means is that they have similar DNA structures. That's a big worm. Big worm. Holy, that's a big worm. Luckily, our earthworms aren't that big around here, are they? This earthworm to study some body systems, right? We used it to do some anatomical stuff. Like we saw that the earthworm has a heart and blood vessels, right? Which means it has a blank system. That is correct, circulatory system. It has a brain, and it's got nerves, which means it has that's right, a nervous system, right? It's got a mouth, it's got a pharynx, it's got a crop and a gizzard and an intestine, which means it has that's right, digestive system. Worms are complicated, complex animals with all the different systems. They have reproductive systems, they've got integumentary systems, they've got nervous systems, they've got, what the only ones they're missing is they're missing the skeletal system, and they don't actually have a respiratory system. They breathe through their skin. Of course, organ systems, right, are groups of organs that work together. So in the hierarchy that we've studied, right, the basic unit of life is the cell. You put similar cells together in a similar place doing a similar thing. We have tissues. You put tissues together where they work together to do one job. That's called an organ. You put organs together where they work together to get one job done. It's an organ system, and then all the organ systems working together make up the complete organism. Worm circulatory system, which of course is a closed system, just like ours. Like some animals have open systems where they don't have blood vessels, but worms have blood vessels just like you and I, and a pumping heart, which moves blood around, right? Right? We call that a closed circulatory system, right? And there's different ways to do that. And yeah, we know that we have what's called a double loop system with 2 atria and 2 ventricles, which move blood around, right? So there's different ways to have circulatory systems, but it's all about moving blood around, all about moving our little friend, little red, around so he can pick up oxygen from the atmosphere, deliver it to body cells, pick up the carbon dioxide waste from the body cells, and remove it to the atmosphere, right? That's little red's job. We learned that in little red, the molecule that carries oxygen is called hemoglobin. And we also learned that oxygen just diffuses from like the lung cavity, from the alveolus of the lung, diffuses into blood cells so that it can be carried. And then they bind to the iron in the hemoglobin so they can be carried around from cell to cell, tissue to tissue. So yeah, we made a big jump from worms and then went to like organ systems, went to circulatory systems, then the blood, and then to diffuse gas exchange in the blood. But that's the way it works in science. It's all connected, and one thing helps explain the other. And if you can keep them all straight, you're gonna do great. All right, happy Hockey Jersey Thursday. After this Bellringer, you've got an Ed puzzle on worms and circulatory system. And yeah, that's time to work on the game.